So you guys see how like the enemy tried to keep Chewie all chained up, you know, so he couldn't do anything, right? And then as soon as he asked God for help, God's army just busted down the door and just straight devoured the enemy. And whatever he was trying to keep him from doing. But I know like in my own life, you know, like, basically like when I was a kid, I used to have like this horrible stuttering problem. And I had like this really like fear of like speaking in public and stuff like that. And ever since I was a kid, like people, you know, like people in church and stuff would tell me like, oh, God's got a plan for your life. And a couple people said that I was called to like, you know, preach and stuff. I'm like, how am I gonna preach, bro? And I can't even like talk right. I like trip over my own tongue when I go to speak. I'm like that. People are crazy, man. So after like, you know, I started like really getting into God, and after I like gave my life to Him and stuff, I was like, God, what's all this mess about you want me to preach, man? And He's like, you know, just trust in me, you know. I mean, basically like, this is just straight God's power right now displayed, you know, because without Him, I would just be stuttering like a stuttering mess. God just like totally fixed up my speech, and I never used to like, before I got saved too, I used to only hang out with like a few people. I used to always like hang out with a tight group because I didn't like to be around a lot of people because it was always like a lot of mess and everything, but whatever. So I had like this real like fear of being around like even speaking in front of people. Like if I was in a room with like 10 or 15 people, my hands would start to sweat. I was like, man, who are these people up in here, man? It was stressing me out. But then now, like, you know, I'm up here with a microphone, just straight letting God do His Hulk through me, you know? And you know, God has a plan for all of your lives. And if you just let God, you know, just let Him do His Hulk through you, you know what I'm saying? You know, but what I can say, though, is God makes the Hulk look like he's a sissy. God is so much more powerful than the Hulk, and if you just let God take control of your life, like, He will take you to places that Discovery Channel can't even dream of. You know, I mean, no joke. I mean, I got saved, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm going to Haiti and Dominican Republic. We're doing a homeless ministry in the street, and it's like, all that stuff is not me. That is not me at all. Like, I didn't know what to do when I got saved. I was just like, you know, I just got saved and like, all right, God, I'm here, you know, what do you want to do? And then God just kept laying stuff out and laying stuff out. You know, but I kept submitting myself to Him. I kept telling you, all right, God, I know I have all these problems, all this anxiety about stressing about speaking in front of people or about meeting new people. You know, do what you do. And then I'm just along for the ride. And I opened myself up to Him, which, you know, broke what the enemy tried to destroy me. You know, try to put that, because the enemy tried to put this thing in my life, try to put the fear in my mind about speaking or even about doing anything. Like, man, you're not going to do nothing because, I mean, all you ever did was, like, chill in the hood and, like, sell weed. How you supposed to be some preacher? You're tripping, bro. I was like, God told me, man, that I'm supposed to be a minister. I'm supposed to be out on the street helping people and bringing people to Him. So I'm just going to believe what He says. And as soon as you start believing what God says, as soon as you start trusting in Him and calling on Him and asking Him for His help, that's when that Hulk just happens in your life. Stuff just starts to explode, like, unexplainably. And, I also want to read 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. For all like 3 of you who have your Bible. This is church, man. I should have found the rest of the people sitting up in there. Wow, I had it written down the whole time on there. Sorry, I have ADD too. But... All right, that 2 Corinthians, you guys ever heard of Paul?
Yes.
Paul the Apostle? Well, Paul's the one who wrote 2 Corinthians, and he actually recently my wife and I were riding in the car, and like what we do on evenings, like we're going riding in the car, we listen to Reach FM, which they have like sermons and stuff. And I never knew this about here, but the pastor was like bringing a message or whatever, and he said that he was talking about this same verse I'm going to read, and he was saying that Paul was actually, when he wrote this, he was actually in prison. Like, he got arrested for being a Christian, and he was in a jail cell while he wrote this whole book. And it says, and he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly, I will rather boast in my infirmities, and the power of Christ may rest upon me. Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in needs, in persecutions, in distresses, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Basically, like, Paul was just sitting in a cell, and like he was feeling beat up about life. You know, he's like, dude's got to be locked up. You know, he was also talking about how he had this problem, you know, about him, and he's like, I pleaded with God. I asked God to take it from me 3 times, but God didn't. He said that, and then Jesus said to him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in your weakness." You know, God really wants us in those places of weakness. You know, because when we feel weak is when we ask Him for help. Because if we never get in those weak situations, we would never ask God for help. You know, God's never going to call like somebody who has like, you know, people think like, oh, when God calls somebody, they're like, they have all these like degrees and they're like some, you know, super like public speaker. They took classes on getting a PhD in public speaking and stuff like that. No, God's going to call somebody who's completely unqualified, so that God can show Himself strong through that person. So people can see Him, like when my old boys see me, you know, I'll be walking through them, you know, like when I run into one of them, they'll be like, "Derek?" But yeah, they're like, "Oh man, what's up, bro?" I'll be like, "Nothing, man, going to church and stuff, living a good life." They're like, "Church? What you doing in church, bro?" Like, "Man, you should come try sometime." You know, and I tell them like, "Oh, we doing ministry in the street and stuff, you know, we ministering to the homeless," and we be like, you know, sometimes I get to preach and stuff. They're like, "What? Come on, man." And like, that stuff right there, like, they knew who I used to be, and they knew my fear, and they knew how I used to just be so stressed out about being around a lot of people, and now they see me up here, you know, ministering and stuff like that. Like that is a witness to them. Like, God is showing Himself. It's like, look, man, see this dude the way he was? You know, like before he knew me, this is how he was. Full of fear, wouldn't even pick up a microphone, and now look at him. He was going overseas, doing all sorts of stuff. So, what I'm saying is, God has like crazy plans for your life, and if you would just submit yourself to Him and just like open yourself up and say, "God, you know I have these downfalls and all these problems and stuff, but I know, you know, that Your word says that I can do great things, that You have big plans for my life." And if you really open yourself up to Him, the possibilities are limitless. And excuse me for a second. All right. So now, what I'm asking of you guys is, do you really feel like God has big plans for your life? Yes. Let me know. What's the enthusiasm in that, man? Woo! Yeah! And it's like a lot of time left. This thing felt like a whole lot longer when I was writing it out. I was like, man, I gotta stop writing. It's gonna be like an hour. It's like 20 minutes. Maybe less than that. Whatever. Gotta do this thing. Alright, so now, if I got some people to come up, or the leaders, to pray over some